We wanted to summarize because I think it's about 16 podcasts that we've done. The majority of them are interviews with experts in certain fields. We'll talk about those fields.
First of all, let's distinguish the differences between the specialities.
How do I get to a psychologist via GESY?
The thing is to actually be able to understand that you need the help. To be able to recognize, to pick up the signs that we need help, either for us or for our loved ones.
Yeah, especially when it's a loved one.
If it's something much more serious, then there's a need for psychiatrist, then the clinical psychologist will refer you to a psychiatrist.
Okay, we've done 2 or 3 on eating disorders.
Yes, we have. I want parents to know that they don't need a nutritionist.
Okay.
They need a psychologist.
Yeah.
And
when you notice those signs,
yes,
you need a psychologist.
Yeah, and it can be cured. If you or a loved one is into addiction, gambling specifically, there is some hotlines that you can call.
As we've discovered on the podcast, and obviously talking now, that there are tools and ways to deal with it.
Hello, everybody. This is our podcast, our first podcast that we're doing in English. We've been running this podcast, the Mental Wellness Podcast, for about a year now. But with Eleni and Andreas Phylaktou, of course, Eleni Antoniou, we've decided to do one in English, a bit to summarize all that we've been doing for the last year or so. So we're going to discuss a few...
Well, we wanted to summarize because I think it's about 16 podcasts that we've done. So 16 different episodes. The majority of them are interviews with experts in certain fields. We'll talk about those fields. There are a couple of podcasts that we've done on our own, discussions. So there's a variety. But what we wanted to do today is to kind of summarize, but also transfer some very important information that we've learned from these experts on the way that the mental wellness field moves in Cyprus. And we wanted to get that information out in English, and that's why we're doing this quick fire shot episode to just give the basic information of what we've learned.
That's right. To go back as to when this started, actually.
When and how it started.
Okay.
It's your idea.
It's my idea. Yeah. That's right. Okay. Going back to myself, I'm an expert by experience, meaning that I'm a person who has a mental health issue myself. So I could be called an expert by experience or a person with lived experience. And throughout my personal journey, I have worked with myself for over 32 years now, 15, 17 years of taking medicine myself. I have been working on the strategic planning of the National Mental Health Strategy. I have been working with the Cyprus University, CUT University, on the training of the nursing staff on the mental health lessons. So I do quite a bit.
You could say that.
Yeah, you could say that. I do certain speeches. I speak publicly on breaking the stigma on mental health. And one day I had this idea that I wanted to do a podcast on mental health, but I wanted to do a podcast on mental health in simple English, the way we're speaking right now, and in simple Greek, of course. So I thought no better than to find Eleni Antoniou and Andreas Phylaktou, who are excellent podcasters, friends, associates. So with a combination of the three of us, we started the Mental Wellness Podcast. And we've been doing this for over a year now, and it's amazing. It's an amazing journey because it's either the three of us or we have guests over.
I wanted to ask you, is it everything you thought it would be?
Much more.
you dreamed of or how you envisioned it?
It's much, much more, because I slowly see the feedback, and it's a blessing when you hear people wanting to come as guests to our podcast.
Yeah.
That's the most valuable gift. Or people sending messages and seeking help, because people can actually relate. Yeah. They can relate. And that's what I wanted to do from the beginning. That was my ultimate goal.
Yeah.
For people to be able to see that they're not alone in their room, in their own dark place,
and
that
because
there's other people going through the same thing.
we do understand that there is progress in a lot of things, but we find that when it comes to mental health, there still is a bit of a taboo. There is some stigmatization. It's not that easy for many people to express what they're feeling or to ask for help. And that is what we've managed to do through a lot of episodes, to explain to people how they can reach out for help. Because, we often say, just reach out for help.
Where?
And then the question comes, where?
How?
Yeah. And this is what I wanted to say as well, that throughout this year of working with you on this podcast, we've learned information, basic rights, actually, that we should all know about how and where we can seek help when and if we need it.
That was the ultimate goal as well, because many times you want to seek for help, but you don't know where.
Yeah.
So that was one of the goals as well, to help people be able to lift the phone and seek for the help where they need to go to, or to actually know what's wrong with them. Many times, you're not well, but you cannot put your finger on it.
You can't pinpoint what it is exactly.
So, and the other reason that both of us agreed on doing an English podcast as well, we have a lot of expats in Cyprus. So, and there's plenty of podcasts, English-speaking podcasts throughout the world, but it's different. We live in Cyprus.
Yeah, the information.
So the information is in Cyprus.
It's local.
Yeah. You need the hotlines here. The information that's needed is for here. So that's why we want to do an English one as well, to help expats to know where to seek the certain information that is needed.
Yeah. So, before we get into the many topics that we've covered on the podcast, let's go back to one of the basic ideas that we had before we even started, and that is the steps that one has to take in order to get help, specifically within the GESY, the National Health System, the NHS of Cyprus. So, Polymon, I feel that I need someone to speak to. I don't know if it's a psychologist. I don't know if it's a psychotherapist, if it's a psychiatrist. I know that I need to speak to someone. What am I entitled to via GESY, and how do I go about seeking the appropriate help?
Okay. You'll be shooting the questions and I'll be answering throughout the episode.
That, yeah.
Let's do it this way. Okay. First of all, let's distinguish the differences between the specialities. Okay. A psychologist, a clinical psychologist, is someone that you go to speak to. Okay, then you have a psychotherapist, you have all the specialities that you go to speak to.
Okay.
No medication is given by these specialities. If you go to psychiatrist, then you will get medication.
Okay.
Because many people don't even know the difference between the two.
So the main difference is that a psychiatrist can...
You go to spill your guts out, okay?
Yeah.
To a psychologist, to a psychotherapist, and to a psychiatrist. You will speak, of course, but he's the only one who is licensed and trained to give you medication.
To prescribe medication. Okay.
No one else.
Okay, so how do I get to a psychologist via GESY?
First of all, you have your own private doctor, okay? Your GP. So you will go to your GP, and if you're not feeling okay or whatever, and you feel that you need help psychological support. You will ask your GP to give you a referral to go to a psychologist, a clinical psychologist. Of course, not all, let's say, not all cases are covered by GESY. Not all referrals are covered by GESY to go to a clinical psychologist, where, by the way, you have to pay only 10 euros, okay, subsidiary. Say you have a depression or you're suffering through chronic anxiety, then you go to a clinical psychologist and he will see you. Now, if it's something much more serious, then there's a need for psychiatrist, then the clinical psychologist will refer you to a psychiatrist.
Okay, so you get the referral to a psychiatrist from the psychologist.
Yes.
I don't have to go back to my GP.
Some cases would.
Okay.
Yeah, because the actual report will be given from the GP.
Okay.
It's a bit crazy the way it's done. Because the report is given from the GP.
And how many sessions am I entitled to?
It always depends on the situation.
Okay.
It's around, the clinical psychologist, if I'm not mistaken, it's either 12 to 18, depending on the situation. But it always varies on the situation. The same with the psychiatrist.
Okay.
So because you could have something could be long-lasting. Okay, so it could be forever, because we could have bipolar disorder, we have schizophrenia. These cases are like forever. So you need constant treatment and monitoring. So then the doctor will keep giving you referrals and extensions, so you keep going. So just to sum it up, a psychologist will be charging you a subsidiary of 10 euros. And a psychiatrist will be charging you 6 euros per visit until you cover the yearly amount we have to pay.
Yeah.
The subsidiary of, I think, 150 euros per year.
There's a certain,
Yeah, and after that, it's free until the end of the calendar year.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it.
Okay. That's a good thing.
That's very good, because if and you can choose.
Yeah.
We didn't say that actually, and you can choose where you want to go to. There's a whole list for each city.
Okay, so I was going to say, how do I? Yeah.
You don't have to go to a hospital, okay, to go see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. There's a list of all private doctors who are in GESY right now. They could just pick a name that you want to go to. You make a phone call and you book your appointment.
Yeah.
So that's very important as well. We've surpassed the stigma of having to go, let's say, to the hospital to see a psychologist, to the psychiatrist. No, you make a private appointment. You go to the private clinic, to the private office of the specialist you want to see. And the people you will see there, or you may see there, are for the same reason you are. So right away, we diminish the stigma.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very true.
So we've made things much easier with GESY when it comes to this thing. And also, by having to pay, 10 euros or whatever, it makes life much easier for people to seek help.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is to actually be able to understand that you need the help. So that's the thing that we were always saying, is to be able to recognize, to pick up the signs that we need help, either for us or for our loved ones.
Yeah, especially when it's a loved one and they're resisting it. They're resisting therapy. That can be a tough one. And I think that we realize that a lot of things in this area can be tough when we tackled the topic of addiction.
That's right.
Here on the podcast. And what did we learn from that?
Well, we had tackled the addiction in many terms. We had gambling and we had drugs, but we had a guest from the National Betting Authority. And what they did tell us that, and it's very sad, that we had kids starting to gamble from the age of 12 and a half.
Yep.
which is very, very sad.
We'll talk about online gambling.
Online gambling, of course. It doesn't necessarily mean that they had to do with money. But even the fact that they're starting to gamble, the idea of gambling is starting...
The dopamine hits.
From such a young age.
The satisfaction that they're getting is the worrying part. That's the currency. Yeah. It's not money. It's your attention.
So it starts from a very young age. So we'll just briefly cover this for you guys. If you or a loved one is into addiction, gambling specifically, there is some hotlines that you can call. It's 1454 for adults and 1456 for adolescents. And the other line is 1444, which is a hotline which supports, and it's a prevention for families, basically. And there's 6 mental health nurses, which will start, which is working hours. So weekly working hours, 8 to 4, which help and will give you as much support as possible in such a case. Unfortunately, the gambling has been rising, and the reason is as poverty rises, the need for gambling rises as well. So that's for that. We could talk a little bit about the red flags in mental health.
We could.
But if there's something else you want to cover first.
Basically, I wanted to see if we could connect the addiction part, the gaming, that part of it, with the eating disorder.
Sure.
Part that we've tackled. We've done 2 or 3 on eating disorders.
Yes, we have.
Learned very interesting information on the way that the mind works when it comes to us feeding ourselves, energizing ourselves. I'm one of those as well. So I do binge eating myself. And for example, I do it when I'm stressed. Yeah.
A couple of days ago, I realized why I was doing it. I was well all day. And then at night, there was a birthday cake in the fridge, and I just galloped all of it. Yeah. And I was wondering why. And I go, damn it, I was okay all day. Why am I galloping all the cake now? And I realized that earlier in the morning, there was an article about me in the newspaper. And I was anxious about it.
Okay.
About the feedback there would be, about whether I try to be strong or not. I showed to be strong, but it's not always so easy. So, I was anxious about the feedback and whatsoever. So that's why I attacked the cake. And the following morning, of course, my stomach was killing me. Yeah. So people binge eat, for example, when they feel anxious, when they need security. Yeah. When they need to feel loved. And I just gave you a perfect example. Yep. Then there's the example of anorexia nervosa. Mm-hmm. People always see themselves as fat, no matter how skinny they are. Because I won't say the word slim. Yeah. They always see themselves as fat.
They have a distorted image of themselves.
Yes. Yeah. And that's very scary.
And it was also interesting that we spoke about various groups of people. So we talked about sports people and how often that's not talked about. The fact that there are eating disorders within.
And with men now as well.
And specifically with men, and boys. And then we took it to different groups, how it affects girls, women, boys, men. And the various stress points that come up when it comes to eating disorders, and the fact that it is often a good idea to try and go to the root.
Because it's not about food. It has nothing to do with food.
It's about control.
It's about control because you feel that it's the only thing you can control.
Yep.
It's the only thing you can control.
Yeah.
So let's say if everything is screwed up in your life and food is the only thing you can control, you're so happy. Yeah. By either not eating it or by overeating it. Because we also have bulimia. like you keep eating and then you go and you puke all over the place.
Yeah.
So if you see your child, for example, eating, and all of a sudden they disappear from the table, and they don't do it once, they keep doing it all the time, keep an eye on them.
Yeah. And I think we also spoke about the baggy clothes as well. There are certain signs, flags that
or saying they're not hungry all the time.
Exactly, that we need to be aware of, because along with the topic of eating disorders, obviously into the conversation came the topic of body image and how it's connected to social media. So while body image or the toxic way of viewing our body has always been around, it's just morphed into something else, and it's way more prevalent now with social media. And again, social media was something that we spoke about a lot. We tackled it with our episode on the adolescence Netflix show, which also had bullying in it, references and other things. But also you had the amazing Mahi Glianthus.
Yeah, that was an amazing episode.
The child psychiatrist.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Which was, I think, one of our latest episodes, and we had a discussion. One of our discussions we had, because we talked about a lot of things with Maki, but I will pinpoint a specific discussion we had about the scarring, the body scarring that children do, adolescents do, and I want parents to keep an eye on their kids about this. I will just put a parenthesis on the eating disorders. I want parents to know that they don't need a nutritionist.
Okay.
They need a psychologist.
Yeah.
And
when you notice those signs, you need a psychologist.
Yeah, and it can be cured. We have seen it, remember?
Yeah.
When we had Anni Markidani, Anni has proven that it can be cured.
Yeah.
But you need a psychologist, and you actually need a group of people to help out. But it is curable.
Yeah.
So there is hope.
And there is hope. And I was going to say that if you are lucky enough to find out about it at an early stage, as we've discovered on the podcast, and obviously talking now, that there are tools and ways to deal with it.
Oh, yeah.
It's manageable.
It is manageable. Yeah. I mean, I'm a living example.
Yeah.
So with Mahi, we had discussed the scarring, the self-scarring,
Self-harming.
Yeah. Where you just take a razor, you take a knife, and they just scar themselves. And I had a person...
You're showing your wrists now, but it's not just wrists.
It's mainly wrists, or the thighs.
Inner thighs. Yeah,
so usually these are the 2 points that you probably see scars on a person's body do that. And what they usually do though is that they have long sleeves or long pants, so they cover themselves. So going back to that, the reason they do that is so people don't see them. But the reason they do that is usually to soothe the emotional pain. Because if you ask them why are they doing that, they say that once they see the blood oozing out of there, once they're cutting themselves, it says that it soothes the emotional pain they're feeling, all of a sudden soothes them just by seeing the blood coming out. So, and the problem is, it's also, from what Mahi told us, it's becoming a trend as well, which is very scary.
It's becoming a trend, again, social contagion, social media. But also, I think something important that Mahi mentioned on that episode is that in many cases, this has nothing to do with actual mental illnesses. No. That's very important that we differentiate one from the other.
It has nothing to do with the mental illness. It has to do many times with teenagers not being able to deal with their emotions. It's either not to deal with their emotions or it's a trend.
Yeah.
But if you see them in the heat of summer, let's say in the 40 degrees we have in Cyprus Celsius, wearing long sleeves and long pants on a permanent basis, keep your eyes open. Okay?
Yes, right.
Anyway, we're hoping Mahi's going to come once again.
We're hoping she will, because
she promised anyway.
She did, and I wasn't here because...
No, she promised because we had texted, and she had some requests as well from people.
Oh, did she? Oh, that's interesting. Okay, and also because we have tackled the huge topic of kids and parenting on the podcast, and it's something that various issues keep coming up. We spoke about juvenile delinquency in schools with a psychologist. Obviously, we got via the Netflix show Adolescence, we got a glimpse of what's going on in schools in the UK. And as a result, we find out that this is a trend again that's happening all over, with kids acting out and acting in very many cases violent as well. So that is definitely something that we want to keep tackling. We were kind of disappointed that within the school sector, we found out that there aren't enough therapists and psychologists.
We found out there's 1 every 3,000 children in elementary schools.
There's 1
every 3,000.
There's 1 psychologist or school educational psychologist for every 3,000 kids.
Students. Yeah.
Okay.
So that tells you how much work they can do.
Yeah. And what needs to be done.
Yeah. So
and it's not with punishment. It's not with isolating certain kids.
Definitely
I mean, whatever we are attempting to do, I think is not working.
You cannot do anything. 1 in 3,000. I mean, by the time a problem eclipses and they come to work, it's too late.
Yeah, no.
You cannot do any work for that.
And then keeping it on the subject of children, one of our favorite ones one of our favorite and most difficult ones was the Hope for Children.
Yeah.
One that we did.
Yeah. We had 2 guests from Hope for Children, and we found out that in the year 2022, there were 32 million children reported of sexual abuse worldwide.
It's 1 in 5 kids in Europe are victims of some kind of sexual assault. Yeah. 1 in 5.
And in 2023 in Cyprus, we had 469 children.
Yeah.
These are official numbers.
Reported cases.
Yeah, of course. Always.
So we could easily assume that there's
plenty more.
Many, many more.
Yeah, because people are always afraid of the stigma. They're afraid of what might happen to them. So these are reported cases.
Hope for Children's doing a really good job, though, aren't they?
Yeah, they're trying their best.
They are.
So to support children, Cypriot children and children coming from abroad. They have different programs.
And also, I was going to say, they do have different programs, and it's not just sexual assault. They tackle bullying as well.
That's right. We have a percentage of 15% of children are victims of cyberbullying, which is a big percentage.
Yep.
And I'm sure that's going to become higher every day, because we see, once again, we go back to adolescence.
Yep, exactly. That show had all these
all these things that
points.
Exactly.
There's also the hotline for Hope for Children.
Yeah. We have the hotline, which is 116-111. Unfortunately, it's not a 24/7 hotline.
There's an online messaging thing on the website.
I didn't see that.
I went on yesterday and a little bubble appears and said, if you need any help.
Okay.
So I think that might also...
Well, this is the number this is for Beat Bullying Helpline, which is Monday through Friday from 12 to 8 p.m.
Okay.
So 116-111.
And also the 1466 number.
Right. And then there's also a European helpline. Okay. This is throughout all of Europe. It's the same number. This is 24/7.
Yep.
So it's 11600. Okay. This number, it's open 24/7. And it's the same number throughout all of Europe.
Yeah.
So anybody who needs any support or help, they can call at all times. In the case of human trafficking, what I found very interesting, when it comes to children, there's no actual number written down because our laws in Cyprus are not very clear. They don't specify. So the police is not able to specify how many children are being, trafficked.
Yeah.
So
because a child is also a 16 and 17-year-old.
Yeah, that's right.
Whereas it won't be considered in the numbers in the stats.
So we only have them written down as victims of sexually abused children and not as human trafficked people. So that's very sad as well. So, yeah, that was a very painful episode, I have to say. Very strong and very painful episode that stayed to heart. But we had learned a lot of things from that.
I think most of them are painful realities.
They are.
Whether it's the statistics and the numbers that are just like glaringly obviously that there's something going on, or whether it's the lack of services or the lack of interest or the lack of awareness. Sometimes this work that we're doing, these podcasts that we're doing, it's difficult and frustrating. We've gotten up a lot of times, the microphones have switched off, the cameras have switched off, and we've gotten up and we're like, my God.
How many times we've done that, seriously?
Yeah. Can we please do better? So, I mean... Yeah, exactly. We're trying to do better.
Yeah. If we could just rapidly tell people some red flags to keep an eye on.
Yes.
For themselves or for their families.
So red flags that you notice and that you feel that what we've just talked about will help you or it fits into some kind of puzzle for you.
Yeah. And I'm just going to read them out for you just really quickly. If you see any mood changes, first of all, let's say you're moody. When you're normal, doing things on a daily basis, and all of a sudden you see your mood changes. You don't lose interest in doing your daily activities. You're not up to going to work. You're lazy. You don't want to get out of bed. You withdraw from your friends. You're not social anymore. Your eating habits change. You start eating too much, or you eat less. You start using substance. You start, wanting to drink. You want to use drugs. So if you haven't been using them before, then things to start worrying about. Your bed pattern, your sleep patterns change. For example, if you start waking up at 4:00 in the morning, whereas before you didn't. And this continues. I'm not talking about once off. I'm talking on a regular basis. Then start thinking, oh, what's wrong?
It's something that starts to become a pattern.
Yes.
Yeah.
Changes in hygiene.
Not caring.
Not caring about taking a bath. I mean, that's a very big sign of depression. If you don't feel about taking care of yourself, changing clothes, wearing clean clothes, taking a bath, changing your bed sheets. If you want to stay in bed all the time. And then we have the difficulties in perception. If you have difficulty in concentrating at work. And then we go to more difficult stuff, starting to hallucinate, feeling disconnected, difficulty with our daily activities and stuff like that. And then definitely if you start having suicidal thoughts or thoughts of dying, talking about death, then you definitely have to seek help for yourself or for your loved ones. And what I always say is there's nothing wrong with seeking help. Seeking help is being brave. You're not being brave by not seeking help. And no matter how many good friends one has, the friends can support you, but they cannot give you the actual help you need. Only a professional can give you the help.
Yeah.
And thank God we have GESY that can offer us this help right now, and we don't have to pay much.
Yeah.
So I suggest that if you or a loved one is going through a difficult phase, we should seek for the help.
Yeah.
Because the help is needed and it's out there. It's available.
Yeah.
for us, for our children, for our loved ones. Because if we're okay, then our family and our loved ones are okay. And I think that's how we should close the episode today.
Yeah.
So seek help. It's there. It's out there. It's available for everybody. And take care of ourselves. Have a good summer.
We'll
talk to you soon in English as well. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.